Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we've got an interesting video here as breaking news about Deshaun Watson maybe not being necessarily content with the Houston Texans has kind of surfaced now. Ian Rappaport tweeting about that. But before we jump into this video and I give my thoughts, I just want to urge each one of you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And now let's jump right into the video. So here, we'll start right here. Ian Rappaport, just less than 10 minutes ago, tweeted, Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson is extremely unhappy with the organization after owner Cal McNair informed him he would be involved in the GM and coach hiring process and provide feedback, but then did neither in the hire of GM Nick Caserio, sources say. Now, the important thing with that is this is something we've seen in basketball before. Players like LeBron James and other franchise players get a little bit of say when it comes to who the head coach will be. They want to help choose who's going to lead that franchise. And the owner, Cal McNair, for the Houston Texans, had told Deshaun Watson that he would be part of that process. However, did not get his approval or even his input on the hiring of GM Nick Caserio. Rappaport also says that there's not necessarily anything Caserio has done or that Deshaun Watson didn't like Nick Caserio. It's just that Deshaun Watson did not get included in the process of choosing to hire Nick Caserio. He feels a little betrayed by the organization, something you clearly don't want. He did ink an extension there with the Houston Texans, but now there's going to be trade rumors. We had heard rumors about him going to the Minnesota Vikings possibly. There's also quite a few other teams I would like to speak on. But before we do that, let's take a look at this tweet here. Deshaun Watson has not spoken to the Texans brass in the last few days, though they have tried to call him. Ian Rappaport tweets here. And this news is really, really game-changing. Obviously, Bill O'Brien did a real number on that franchise. Came in. They were very successful with him, actually. Won quite a few games. However, him as a GM versus him as a coach were completely different things. The coach, Bill O'Brien, got a lot of things done well. They played well in the field. However, Bill O'Brien in the front office made a lot of mistakes. Really overpaid in a trade with the Miami Dolphins for Laramie Tunsil, their offensive tackle. Obviously a really great tackle, but overpaid for him in a trade. Also, really paid a lot to extend him. They did not have an extension in place when they traded for him, so a lot of pressure there on the Texans to keep him after giving up such assets. Then, obviously, the most notable one being trading away star wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson in a second-round pick. Really just did not maximize the value there. They don't have a lot of assets moving forward, and they're just in a bad situation, to be completely honest with you. Deshaun Watson possibly wanting out is the straw that would break the camel's back here. The Houston Texans could be in a world of hurt. If they do trade him, they'd have to get a ton of assets back for him, and it would maybe be like a brand new restart. However, if you're the Houston Texans, that's not something you're going to want to do. You're a young franchise yet, one of the youngest in the NFL. You know, they had the Matt Schaub era, then they transitioned into basically Deshaun Watson after a few years of Hoyer and Osweiler and so on. I don't think a restart is what the Houston Texans fans would want. I don't think that's really what ownership would want, but that's kind of what you're looking at here. Now for Deshaun Watson, I completely understand if he did want out of Houston. He has not formally requested a trade. However, him refusing to answer phone calls from the Texans organization does seem like it is trending in that direction. And I think the big thing to really monitor is which teams could be in the market for him. He is a top 10 QB in the NFL. There's no debating that. He's extremely dynamic as a thrower and runner of the football. Some of the throws he is capable of making, most QBs in the NFL wouldn't even dream of attempting. He's just a special talent, and I think that a lot of teams are going to be vying for him. I think the New York Jets would be an interesting team to watch for. They're looking for that franchise QB. They have a lot to dangle out there, even something like pick 2, but I just don't know what the value looks like for Deshaun Watson with such a big contract, how trading really would work for him at this point. You know, you're looking at least probably Sam Darnold going back if the Jets were to move on from him for Deshaun Watson, and then an additional probably abundance of draft selection, whether that be inclusive of pick 2 or just future compensation. That's yet to be seen. Also, the Minnesota Vikings, they've been rumored to Deshaun Watson. You're maybe looking at a Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson flip with maybe pick 14 in there and a few other draft selections. I could see something like that getting done. I think both sides would maybe be motivated to make that work. Houston gets an established QB, kind of avoid hitting that reset button, as well as an accompaniment of picks to really try and continue to grow that team, Maybe Kirk Cousins can get them into a playoff spot. I don't think they would in the AFC South, but I think they'd be competitive with Cousins and a few draft picks coming back. Another place to watch would be, in my opinion, the New York Giants. Obviously, a higher pick this year. Again, Daniel Jones hasn't quite worked out. Maybe Deshaun Watson could come in there, fix that. He's obviously a better player than Daniel Jones. Not that Daniel Jones can't work either. I don't think he's really had the best thing around him. I just think this is a for sure upgrade and a safe way to go if you're Dave Gettleman there of the New York Giants. Also, a few other places off the top of my head. New England, that would be terrifying. As a New York Jets fan myself, I really pray Deshaun Watson does not end up being a New England Patriot at the end of the day. That deal could be centered around pick 15 this year. A few other assets from the New England Patriots for Deshaun Watson. That's something I really pray doesn't happen. Also, the Miami Dolphins, the AFC East, could be loading up. Tua Tagovailoa struggled a little bit this year. I don't really think it was his fault. The offense wasn't really catered to him as well. They didn't have a lot of weapons at running back or wide receiver. But Deshaun Watson is a for sure improvement over Tua Tagovailoa. Watson could come in, give them a lot of different options, more mobile of a QB, a little bit more dynamic as well. I think a better thrower of the football, especially downfield, Deshaun Watson is. If he could come into Miami, pick 3 could be on the table from Miami. Whole bunch of other assets there as well. That might be the Texans' best way to recoup some of those picks. Those would be their own picks, obviously, that they gave up for Laramie Tunsil. Those are kind of some of the ones that jump out to me initially. Maybe San Francisco, the 49ers could be willing to pay a hefty price to get their franchise QB, Deshaun Watson. He's a for sure upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. There's just going to be a lot of teams that are really interested in him, and I don't blame those teams for being interested. Almost every single NFL team should be giving a call to the Houston Texans to at least monitor the value outside of maybe the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they've got their long-term answer. Green Bay Packers probably don't need to make a call either, but they might as well monitor it, maybe see if there's a pick that they could throw in to get the deal done if they wanted to. I mean, Deshaun Watson's an incredible talent. I think he's a guy who could come in, fix a lot of issues, hide a lot of issues on teams. The Texans are really playing with fire with Deshaun Watson here. To promise him the ability to be involved in the process of hiring a GM and coach, and then not actually including him in that process, could be an absolute backfire, problematic end to the Houston Texans as we know them right now. Remember, they were up 24-0 on the Kansas City Chiefs just over a year ago. And now, at this point, they are possibly looking at a full-blown rebuild. Could be blowing their franchise up, essentially, and hitting restart from where they're at. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you are new, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next video.